Hello everyone, and welcome back to Banjo Tooie on the Nintendo 64. I am one Welsh sheep yet again, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue onwards with some more Cloud Cuckoo Land. Yes. And to start things off, we're actually going to go into the main chamber this time around so I can explain a bit more about this place. And as I briefly mentioned during the first part, this main central chamber here is basically the major connector hub of all the areas of Cloud Cuckoo Land. You're going to come in here every so often just to go from one point to another point to another point, and as you can tell, there's loads of different doorways. And your first time visiting this little area will be confusing to say the least, because it is very it can be very awkward to figure out which doors lead to which areas, because there's not really much indicator about which place goes where, with the exception of the lights and stuff around the doors. Like, some doors are going to be blue, some doors are not, but basically it'll take some time to get used to the areas and learn where you're going to be going from each, what each door takes you. For example, by here we have a pot of gold area. And we won't be actually using this for quite some time. Because to use this pot of gold area, we basically need to utilize Mumbo Jumbo's raining shenanigans, which we won't be using until like way late into the... Basically way late into the playthrough. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? What can I tell you? Indeed. Yes. But to start things off, pop on over here, and if you look inside this pool of water over here, there will be a globo sort of bouncing about, meandering, all happy like so. Pop on into here and give the globo a good hello. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? What can I tell you? Indeed. Yes. And if we swim underneath by here, we'll actually go into another area which actually solves yet another basically past sort of quest that we've been given during the course of the game that we have not been able to fulfill. If you go down into here, you will see a giant boulder that has Kazooie's face on it. Use Kazooie's Talon Torpedo, and of course it'll drain out all of the water. And as if you remember before, there was not a dragon, but there was a dinosaur in Pterodactyl Land called Dippy, who needed water because he was thirsty. Well, lo and behold, now he has tons of water. This should last him for a good while, at least, unless there's another drought or something. Drought. But there we go. And with Dippy's pool filled with water by here, I actually kind of like this dialogue that comes up, because obviously, we said initially to Dippy, like, oh, water's not going to just come from the sky, is it? It's not going to come out of nowhere. But, he said it wouldn't just drop from the sky. We lied! But one thing I do actually really appreciate is the fact that we directly get given the Jiggy. We don't actually have to go all the way back to Pterodactyl Land to pick the Jiggy up. He just drops it in a interdimensional bag, which honestly makes me really happy, because less backtracking the better, ladies and gentlemen, because it means we don't have to go all the way back to another world just to pick up a MacGuffin that we already could have collected. It just makes things a lot easier to manage. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? What can I tell you? Indeed. Yes. But yeah, like I said, that's basically what I was getting at in the previous part when I mentioned that all the things we're going to be dealing with during the course of this world is basically going to complete the game. It's going to be all clearing up all of the side objectives we've been, basically compiling during the course of our playthrough. Basically, this world will clear up all of our loose ends for the most part, with one or two exceptions. And honestly, I kind of dig that. I kind of dig that the last world is where you were able to finally 100% everything flat out, ladies and gentlemen. And in a lot of instances, like with Pterodactyl Land's pool, for example, we don't even need to go back to the world to pick up the Jiggy, and I just really appreciate that. It just makes the whole thing feel better to me, I don't know. But anyway, head on up to this red glowing weird wall thing, and grip grab your way across here, because as you can probably guess, that's the wrong egg, we need to use Clockwork Kazooie again because there is another one of those fantastic safe switches inside this wall. And basically, whenever you see one of these red walls, you can guarantee that there's a safe switch inside it. So, a lot of the puzzle when it comes to these safe switches are basically just trying to work out where each of them are and then slowly but surely, you know, explode them. You know, ladies and gentlemen, just work your way in. But anyway, it's time to actually talk to the safe itself because, you know, it's a Rareware game. Anything that has eyeballs is sentient and can talk to you. What can I tell you? And, yeah, this is basically, it's basically him giving us the thing to get the switches. Now, what I kind of like about here is he does sort of give you a hint about what the combination is, whereby... Actually, no, he doesn't give you a hint. What am I talking about? Well, basically, you can't actually... even if you know the number, you can't actually just go out of your way and just type the combination, and you do need to find the combination switches, which some people may not be happy about. I'm honestly not too fussed, personally, but that's just me. But I digress. Anyway, here's the second Mumbo Hut and the fake Mumbo Hut, and if you recall, earlier on I said there's a Jinjo in here. Basically, the Jinjo... The hut that has the Jinjo and not the Minjo is the fake hut. And if we move on up here and talk to Mumbo Jumbo, well, let's just see what happens, shall we? Yes.
Surprise, motherfucker!
Wow, that wasn't friendly at all. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mumbo is the boss fight of this one, ladies and gents. And this year, Mingy Jongo, which is the Mumbo ripoff we're fighting, is a shameless Terminator ripoff. But oh my god, this is one of my favourite boss fights in the game. The amount of times I said that during this playthrough is bloody ridiculous. But, you know, we just basically need to wait for him to attack us with his pink energy blast, and then wait for him to sort of have to reload his Shaman Zappy Stick. When his Shaman Zappy Stick reloads, then there is our chance to whack him. And as we actually do damage to the boss fight, you can see the damage visibly happen on his body, and I absolutely love this. It's just such a... It's such an epic boss fight and such a fantastic boss to finish off the final world, you know? Although I say that as if we're finishing off the final world. We're not finishing off this world yet. We got way more to do before we actually finish off this world. But again, this boss fight is just absolutely fantastic. You know, as time goes on in the boss, as you inflict more and more damage, he will start teleporting around the room and start shooting at you in much more rapid succession. When he starts teleporting around the room and starts shooting at you more rapidly, I advise it greatly to get Kazooie out and use Talon Trot to dodge all the energy blasts and get from one point to the other, because otherwise you're at risk of not only missing out your chance to attack him, because there is a very small window of opportunity. There's also a very high chance of him hitting you, because these pink energy zaps, well, they are extremely quick and they home in really quick, and I have no idea how I didn't hurt him there. I should have hurt him. So, you know, stay on your toes and just move as quick as you can. And again, this is one of my favorite boss fights in the whole game. It's very fast-paced, you know, ladies and gentlemen. You do need to be on your toes, and you do need to pay attention to what's happening, what position in the room that Mingy Jongo is in, you know, before you can hit him and whack him. But, I don't know, I just dig it. I absolutely dig it. I do love the remix of the music as well for this boss. It just, you know, it just screams awesome. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? But let's leave the final hit, shall we? Bada bing, bada boom. And, this is a bit of a gruesome moment, but I remember when I was playing this as a kid, and I just used to love the attention to detail, because wherever his head falls off and like the green blood sort of spurs onto the floor, there's actually a tiny little puddle there that stays there for just a cutscene, really. But I don't know, that used to amaze me back in the day, you know. I mean, this is an old game, and I used to be really easily impressed with high graphics and games. I don't know, that little attention to detail just always... Oh, it made me feel all tingly inside. I can't do the usual Dr. Clawish voice when I say that anymore, because my throat's still not really 100% there, which makes me sad, but I digress. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're basically done with Mingy Jongo. He's not going to deal with us anymore, and unfortunately, when we do take care of Mingy Jongo himself, there's no real reason to ever revisit the fake Mumbo hut. It just sort of exists, which is it's a bit of a shame. You don't actually use the hut for anything, but as long as you remember which color Mingy Jongo was and which color the hut was, then you're probably never gonna get really confused. But littered throughout the course of Cloud Cuckoo Land are these purple eggs. As you can probably guess, you need to hatch them, and then you get Floatus Floatium creatures. That's the worst fake Latin I think I've ever heard. But those creatures, they're littered throughout the land as I expected, as I mentioned even. And whenever you pick them up, you will need to utilize Banjo alone in order to actually, utilize them properly. But I'll talk more about that a bit later on. And the thing that's kind of interesting about this world is, we've pretty much accomplished everything that Banjo and Kazooie together can do. The rest of this world is basically largely going to be Banjo and Kazooie separated. This is largely going to be them two not really interacting with each other and doing their own separate things. And I don't know, I kind of like that about this world actually, because it really brings about the... It really utilizes splitter pads to the best of their potential. You know, there's tasks littered about for just Kazooie, there's tasks littered about for just Banjo, and sometimes you need to split apart in order to do one thing, to do another thing, in order to come together to finish off something. I don't know, I think this really does a good job in really utilizing the splitter pads, you know, ladies and gentlemen. But I digress. Anyway, the major thing we're going to be doing for the most part right now is Kazooie is going to be hatching these eggs that are littered about. And if you see that trash can over there that was just on screen, we will be heading to that trash can fairly shortly. Because, well, basically that trash can is home to some mini-games that only Kazooie can access and only Kazooie can really do much with. So we'll be actually accessing that a bit later on in this part, and it's one of the final mini-games of the game, which is a bit of a shame now that I think about it, but there we are. You know, we are coming to the end game, naturally. Of course, that isn't the only mini-game that is present in this world. There is a second mini-game that we will be dealing with, let's just say a great deal later on, like as one of the very, 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 very final things we'll be doing in this world, you know. But I digress. Anyway, with that, there's all the Floatium creatures hatched, and it's time to start gliding off, or finding a way... Not gliding off, well, I guess gliding off. We're going to be heading off to the trash can itself now to, well, simply put, head into the trash can. At least I think we're doing that right now. I could be wrong. We could be going somewhere else entirely. That's the only problem about doing these LPs so far in advance is, you know, you forget things. Like, I know for a fact that soon in this video we're going to the trash can, so, you know, I could be very well going there now, but if not, then my bad. Oy. Needless to say, I do actually absolutely love the soundtrack as well, again, in this world. Like, the soundtrack in this world is not really as memorable to me, like, I always tend to forget it. But when you're in here, you know, it's a fantastic tune, and it does really come across as like this crazy sort of tune, which makes sense because this entire world is bonkers. It's the best way I can describe it. This world is absolutely bonkers. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? What can I tell you? Indeed. Oh, we are heading to the trash can first. Alright, hey, I was right! Woo! Do you just love it when that happens? But anyway, head on down here, and first things first, we do want to fly onto the actual top of the trash can itself, because there is a honeycomb piece, which is very, very easy to miss, ladies and gentlemen, so I do advise you going out of your way to pick it up right now. And I think that's actually the final honeycomb piece of the game. I could be wrong, there could be one more on the stage, but I can't remember properly. I don't know, I forget how many is in. I think it might be 3, so maybe there's one more honeycomb piece listed somewhere else. I can't remember right now at this time, but we'll find out shortly. There's only a couple, well, I think it's only literally one part left of this world, so, you know, we'll find out. But anyway, inside the trash can itself, as I said, houses a minigame, and this is one of the more simple minigames, I suppose, where it sort of relies on the standard minigame idea that we had to deal with before, where, you know, red is 1 point, green is 2 point, blue is 3 points. So, you know, it's all the same sort of advice I advised for all the previous minigames up until this point. They are all applicable here. But basically, we need to run around this trash can and kill germs. That is right, we need to kill germs so this old can of beans with eyeballs doesn't get evicted by the government. I don't know. It's kind of weird to me that like it's a token sentient can that can possibly get evicted because how unhealthy that a trash can is. Like what? I don't know. I love the wackiness of this place. I love this entire world. What can I tell you, ladies and gentlemen? But again, as I said, this world, the minigame is basically the same sort of idea as all the previous worlds before it. You know, go for the blues first, then go for the greens, then go for the reds after that while you're on your way to each individual green. You know, it's same sort of pattern as always, but actually I can't even say it's all that difficult. It's actually really easy a minigame to deal with, but I have noticed in this minigame in particular, it could just be my controller, but sometimes the B button presses don't actually register, like, maybe it's because the game does drop a bit of frames in this minigame, so I'm assuming that maybe the button doesn't register because it just misses the frames where it reads the button prompts. I don't know. But I digress. With that, that is the tell your friends. Okay, I'm not doing that. But with that, that is that minigame done and dusted, and that's a Minjo. Boop! We're not quite 100% done in here, I don't believe. I believe there's something else in this area. I think that up there is a real Jinjo, so jump on into this milk carton and, yeah. And I do believe that, I think it's in this milk carton. It actually says on the side, like, missing person 2D from the original Banjo Kazooie, if I'm remembering correctly, which I could very well be misremembering this because I don't know if it's actually a thing in the game because I'm obviously not looking at the sodding milk cartridge. Oh, for God's sake, jump and glide, for Christ's sake. It's very tricky to do the glides. There we go. But, you know, it says now missing 2D, which I don't know what the hell happened to it after Banjo Kazooie because they tend to forget about their existence. I guess it's kind of like, Banjo's girlfriend, not Banjo, Crash Bandicoot's girlfriend from the first Crash Bandicoot game. Like in the sequels of that, she's just completely forgotten about and apparently made off with Pinstripe of all people, which is peculiar. But before we head on off back to reunite with Banjo, we basically need to go in here with Kazooie's Clockwork Egg because, as you could probably guess, there is a switch in here. So just, it's time to blow that up, what can I tell you? And it does sort of look like you can get into this bottle from the top of the bottle. You can't, unfortunately, so don't bother trying. Just go around the back of the trash can and then, you know, and then shoot the Clockwork Kazooie Egg. What can I tell you? And as I said previously in the LP, you know, suicide is a very, very, very good speedrunning tactic, especially in this world, because, you know, to get from one point to the other point, it's very handy to basically just suicide because it'll always send you back to a splitter pad, you know, if you're split from Banjo or Kazooie. And of course, now utilizing Banjo, we can get to use these floatum creatures, which basically if you use Banjo's sort of taxi pack on them, then you'll hover for a few seconds, and you can use this to get to areas that are usually inaccessible. And that's why we had to go around as Kazooie hatching them all up, because we have no way to get to each of these sequences without... well, without basically hatching them, you know, ladies and gentlemen. But now it's time for the sack pack, and this allows us to do that sack race against Mr. Fit. And it's it's kind of a situational power-up because it doesn't really have many benefits to us at all, but it allows us to sort of hop on top of toxic chemicals and allow us to hop across things that otherwise would normally hurt us. So, you know, it's It's a very situational power-up, but it's a power-up that I kind of dig. Especially considering it does serve as a good platforming challenge, especially against Mr. Fit by here when we actually get to him, because, well, basically, when we deal with Mr. Fit, we'll need to use this power-up, and as you can probably guess, because you're in a sack, you'll be jumping everywhere. That means your maneuverability is going to be a little bit crippled, so you need to be very smart about how you do things. Of course, we won't be going straight to Mr. Fit right away, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, because there is actually no way to head up to the point where his race is being held. In fact, before we even do anything to actually rectify that, let's just jump all the way down here using that flower to jump into this bouncy castle. Because, well, this is one of those jiggies that I always forget about every time I play through the game, and I always forget how exactly I get down here, because that one flower that actually takes you down here, that one teleporty flower that takes you down here is, I always somehow tend to miss it when I'm platforming through the area, so I make sure to grab this straight off. But, again, we won't be dealing with Mr. Fit in this part. We will be dealing with him shortly-ish, however. That's basically what I'm getting at, because, if you recall, way at the beginning of the world, we actually picked up a couple of beans. And we're going to be planting those beans now in very specific locations to activate beanstalks that we're able to climb on. And as you can probably guess, we can't use the beanstalks without Mumbo Jumbo doing his Mumbo Jumbo thing. So, yeah, we won't be dealing with Mr. Fit just yet, unfortunately. But this is an example I was on about, like, your controls, yes, are completely nerfed whenever you're using the sack pack, and it can be a little bit tricky. But, you know, if you're good enough at controlling it, you shouldn't have too much problems getting around from area to area. I suppose the most dangerous thing about using the sack pack is the enemies. Because those enemies are a pain in the ass to dodge, and if they do clip you, there is a very high chance they'll knock you into the abyss below, which means you need to backtrack around and do the sorting platforming to get back to that point again, and it's just very tedious. But yeah, basically take the beans to one of these holes within the world. There's 2 of them in total, and yeah, bada bing, bada boom. Like that first hole, but that will actually take us to a cheese area, which is potentially one of the more frustrating platforming challenges of the game, but I'll talk about that when we get to it. Because we're not getting to it in this part. I don't want to blow my load early, if you know what I mean, ladies and gentlemen. But if you can tell by there as well, you actually saw a good example of actually the honey back cheat that we actually picked up and utilized, because, well, as I said, you wait a second after getting hurt and it will rejuvenate your health yet again. And, you know, like I said, some people will consider it to be too broken a power, but considering how difficult the end game of this game can actually get, I kind of welcome it. But personally, I would have preferred something like maybe like a half damage power or something instead. Like maybe you take away half a honeycomb every time you get hit or something. I would have preferred something along those lines to just flat out regenerative health, because then it gives you an advantage, but it doesn't break the game in two. I don't know. I mean, it makes the final boss infinitely more manageable, so And when you're playing as a kid, if you're a kid playing through this, you're probably going to want that power up when you do the final boss, because I tell you, when I was playing this when I was younger and I first got through this game, I didn't have the honeyback cheat on hand. I didn't 100% this game as a kid, and well, let's just say I regretted it. But I digress. With those 2 beans planted, that is it for this part, so thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Don't be sheepish, people, and I'll catch you all next time as we get Mumbo Jumbo and access the powers of the heavens above to, well, to grow those seeds. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. Don't be sheepish. I'll catch you all next time. Bye!